Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth, and salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua that may listen. May the blessing of election be over your house. My name is Brother Akwai. I'm back in here with another lesson. So today's lesson is going to be a bit of a little history, and this is in regarding to oh, whoops. That's supposed to say modern. Okay, so modern day Bacchanalia, right? So what I want to do is go into a little bit about the word, and then Yahweh Ratazah, this would be an edifying lesson, right? So let's get the definition and what is Bacchanalia. And what also inspired this lesson is the fact that this is the time of year where a lot of the tribes they celebrate, whether it's like in Toronto, for example, there is Carabana, and even in the Caribbean islands as well, they celebrate their own little versions of this festival, right? Where people get drunk. There's a lot of women there. There's a lot of lewd behavior. It can be demonic as well. And I just wanted to bring this out because in the islands, specifically, we normally call this bacchanal, right? So, and okay. So what I want to do, I want to read a little bit about what Bacchanalia is, right? And bring in a couple precepts. As a matter of fact, let me open up with this precept really quickly because that which is then is new, right? Let's get... Okay, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9, and it reads, "The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun." Verse 10, "Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath already been of old time, which is before us," right? So this is a festival that has taken place in old times, right? And this is something that that would this vibration and what this tradition, what this this spirit of of mirth, and worshiping these other gods, this has been of old time, especially during the time of the Maccabees, right? And which I'll get later on in the lesson. So first of all, so let's get, okay, let's see here. It says the term Bacchanalia describes the initiatory and celebratory rites dedicated to the Roman festival, Salakia, Roman god Bacchus, a variant of the Greek Dionysus, right? These practices, which were intimately tied to the Greek soteriological aspirations of their adherents, which largely inherited from Greek and Etruscan mystery religions, save their notable incorporation of carnality through the use of inebriation and sexual license. And this is the kind of spirit that is on these modern day festivals that our people celebrate today. Like when you go to these different festivals, it's normally people, they're constantly drunk. The men and women are behaving very, very sexual towards each other, and it's a overindulgence of debaucherous and lewd behavior, right? Further on, it reads, "Though extent of the Italian peninsula since the approximately 600 BCE, these practices began to truly flourish during the 3rd and 2nd centuries BCE. The dramatic increase of the popularity of these rites, coupled with the fact that they encouraged the involvement of various lesser citizens, such as slaves, women, youth, led the Roman Senate to pass edict banning all authorized worship of Bacchus in 186 BCE. right? So here, down here, it says Bacchus, right? So it says Bacchus was the Roman characterization of the Greek Dionysus, which is why I read that, that first precept, right? A deity who represented the power of intoxication and ecstasy, literally being one being outside the self. He was known as the liberator. In Greek, it says Eleutherios. In Latin, it says liber, which is probably where you get the word liberty from. Freeing individuals from their day to day lives through drunkenness, madness, and artistic expression. Paradoxically, he was also viewed as a promoter of civilization, a lawgiver, a lover of peace, as well as a patron of deity of agriculture, yada yada yada. Right. So, so this is the kind of vibration that is pushed upon our people, especially during this time of year. Right. In the respective tribes, like Benjamin, I know for sure that they worship this, this modern day version of Bacchanalia. They actually still call it that, even to this day, right? And it's the same sort of behavior that goes on. It's under, but it's done under the guise of being so-called emancipated, right? Being no longer slaves and so on and so forth. It's also done in England as well. In London, they have their own Notting Hill Carnival, and it's the same vibration, right? And in the islands, for example, it's called Jab Jab or Juve or Monday Night Mass. Like all these different festivals, it's coming in that same vibration of Bacchanalia, right? So let's get a few precepts. As a matter of fact, let me get this word in the etymology right. Okay, so this is the vibration of this place and of this false god, right? So it says the Greek god of wine and of revelry, later named Dionysus, the Latin Bacchus, which is perhaps related to a Latin Bacca, fruit or tree or shrub. Um, it's not it. Okay, so yeah, the god of wine and revelry, right? So it is excessive drinking, excessive lewd behavior that is associated with um these festivals, As a matter of fact, let's get this. This is one that came to mind recently. Okay, this is First Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9, and it reads, "Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of the Most High? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, or revilers, or extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of the Most High, right? So this is the kind of behavior we're supposed to shun from, right? And this is why, and then on top of this as well, the Most High, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, is really, really angry, with our people, because this is the kind of behavior that they involve themselves in, right? Can they, being always having a good time. If there's anything our people have mastered, to the T, is always having a good time. It's always something going on a Saturday, on a Sunday, and it's always something vain, and they completely forget about what Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is actually required of you, right? So that is the freedom that they like to liberate themselves from, right? And that likens unto you to be what? A complete degenerate, right? In Jeremiah it says, I've planted thee a noble vine and a right and holy seed. How have ye become a strange and degenerate plant unto thee? To roughly paraphrase, right? And this is how we've became a degenerate plant, because we partake in these other customs as opposed to the customs that make us upright, right? So this is Ephesians chapter 5, verse 18, and it reads, "And be not drunk with wine, wherein Salakia, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit, right? So we're not supposed to be filled with all these, and this wine also, let me just clarify this, the wine can be literal and it can also be spiritual, right? Because the wine that is being pushed in, Babylon the Great, in America and in the West, it's constantly it's a spiritual strong wine that's constantly being pushed on our people, which makes all the whole world drunk, right? So, and let me just wanted to just clarify that really quickly, right? Let's get an account in Second Maccabees. Okay, this is Second Maccabees chapter 6. Uh, t- okay, the points in verse 7 and 8. So I'm just going to read from verse 1 just to give some context. So this is Second Maccabees chapter 6, verse 1, and it reads, "Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of the Most High Yahweh, but to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem and call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, and that in Gerizim of Jupiter the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and revelings by the Gentiles. And that is the same sort of behavior that it goes on at these, so-called, modern day Bacchanalian, events. It's always riots, revelings, because think about the kind of behavior and the kind of spirits those events invite. It's always it's always like these quote unquote nigga moments. Some guy is drunk, or some woman is dancing with this other man, and it just invites a bunch of chaos and a bunch of bad behavior. Fights can break out. This is the kind of unruly behavior that these kinds of events invite, right? People get killed, shot, so further on it reads, let me just read verse 4 again. For the temple was filled with riot and revelings by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, and besides that brought in things which were not lawful, right? And one of the things that I think in one of the earlier chapters, and I think it was in First Maccabees 2, there was somebody that was they were trying to like sacrifice swine's flesh on the altar. So essentially, all these different practices, they pollute your temple, right? Taking all these customs of the heathen, these pollute your temple, you know, and it forces our people to go away from the laws of the Most High Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? And it forces us to, that ultimately becomes, that's where we become degenerate plants. That's why we become a degenerate, low vibration people. Verse 5, and it reads, "And the altar was also filled with profane things which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days, the ancient fasts, or profess himself at all to be a Jew," right? So they were being what? They were being Hellenized, right? By the Greeks. Antiochus Epiphanes was putting a lot of hell upon our people, and a lot of our people, they became martyrs, and a lot of our people sold out, and they began to add to that affliction towards our people, right? Verse 7, and it reads, "And in the day of the king's birth, every month, they were brought by bitter constraint to eat the sacrifices. And when the fast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy, against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and partakers of their sacrifices. Right. So this is the kind of things that were happening. It was forcing our people to neglect the ways of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai and walk in what the so-called Greekish fashion, which should give you a lot more and clarity and understanding, of who Paul is talking to, in his letters to the Colossians, the Ephesians, the Romans, the Jew first and then the Greek. Those Greeks were Hellenized Israelites that fell away from their customs through these different unrighteous decrees that the Greeks were putting on them, right? So this is after, the passing of Alexander the Great, you know. And another thing here, it also says the suggestion of Ptolemy. Ptolemy was one of those, I believe he's described as a wing in Daniel 7 and 6, right? He's one of those top generals that, that was under Alexander, right? After Alexander had passed away, he was more in control of Egypt, right? So, so this is the partakers of heathen-like customs that our people should not be partaking in, right? Because, that which is then is now, right? And this is no new thing under the sun, right? And this was going on back then, right? So let's get a scripture just to back up my point. This is Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1, and it reads, Hear ye the word which the Lord Yahweh speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Verse 2, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed by the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them, for the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of a workman with the axe. Right. So, all of these different customs of the heathen, they're actually, they're not profitable, right? And our people take on these different customs and thinking this is who you are, and this is not who you are, right? All these customs, they just make you into a degenerate, right? They take you further, and as a matter of fact, they take you further and further away from the ways of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right? Let me just get Sirach, and then I think I'll just close it out. Okay, this is Sirach chapter 31, verse 20. I'll start at 29. But wine, okay, so I'll start at 28 actually. Wine measurably drunk in season bringeth gladness of heart and cheerfulness of mind. But wine drunken with excess maketh bitterness of mind, with brawling and quarreling. And that is the kind of behavior that that comes about when you go to these different modern day Bacchanalia events, right? It invites all these, scuffles, fights. People don't have control of their emotions, so they're just given into the flesh, right? They're not thinking spiritually, and they don't know they've crossed the boundary, right? Because to know that you crossed the boundary, you would have to come back to the knowledge of the Yahweh Bashim Yahushai and actually understand that there are things that you do and there are things you stay away from and there are things that you don't do, right? Right? That's why we have laws, statutes, and commandments, right? So I'll read verse 29 again, and it reads, But wine drunken with excess maketh bitterness of the mind, with brawling and quarreling. Drunkenness, oh, this is a good one. Drunkenness increaseth the rage of a fool till he offend. It diminisheth strength and maketh wounds. And that's true. That is the kind of behavior that happens when, somebody's drunk. They don't have any control of their emotions, right? So when you read verse 28 and verse 29, you actually see like a contrast. Like, there are moments where you have a little wine, and it helps to kind of like loosen you up because, through this captivity, we're going through a lot of hell. However, you don't take it too far to the point where you're drunkenness and you can't control yourself and you're essentially being like a lion in your house and in your environment, right? There's a balance. The scriptures talk about being temperate. He that striveth for the masteries is what? Temperate in all things, right? And that's, even myself, that's some things that I have to practice, right? So you don't want to be somebody who's a complete drunkard, right? But it helps to, wine does help you to be help loosen you up, right? Make you feel a little bit more at ease, essentially, right? So but at the end of the day, it's about balance, and that is the vibration that is placed push. Is to constantly be drunk. Constantly be filled with an idea of being mirthful all the time, right? Scriptures talk about being sober. Why? Because the adversary, the devil, is out seeking to who he may devour, right? And that is the opposite of being drunk, right? And being sober is what? Being clear-minded of the things that are happening in your environment, the things that Esau is coming up with, right? Because when you're drunk, you're very unaware of things that are going on around you, right? So this is why the scriptures clearly always stress the importance of being sober, right? So anyways, I think I'll leave it there. But hopefully this video was edifying. I didn't want to make it too long, but I just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth. Until next time, I say Shalom.